All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about real music and a little bit of sadness in this particular episode as we talk about someone who just passed away and doing it in real time for a few real people out here, just like you and me. So, if you grew up as a child in the 1970s, and your dad drove a Ford LTD station wagon, you probably heard this song, One Toke Over the Line. You probably heard that blaring from that one speaker that was situated in the middle, right above the, I was going to say the gear shifter, but the gear shifter was most likely on the steering column. So that one speaker, right in the middle, on the top of the dashboard, that was your stereo system in those days. If you had a really nice car, you might have two speakers. And I think maybe in the Cadillacs they may have put four speakers, but I'm pretty sure if you had two, you're living the good life back in 1970 whatever. Anyway, One Toke Over the Line, Brewer and Shipley, a song that I used to put on repeat play quite a bit because the twang of that song and the harmonies and these two guys going back and forth, and they vocalize and harmonize, and it goes all the way through the song right up until the end, so you have to stay glued to those speakers. I don't know, glued to your radio. So Michael Brewer, who was one half of the duo known as Brewer and Shipley, has passed away at the age of 80 years old, according to his longtime partner, Tom Shipley. It happened on Tuesday. Apparently, Brewer had battled a couple of things for a few years. Longtime partner Tom Shipley announced the sad news of Brewer's death in a post on social media. He revealed that Brewer's family had discharged him from the hospital because he was, quote, ready to go home. Yeah. It's sad, but apparently he knew maybe where he was going. Michael Brewer, my friend of 65 years and music partner for over 60, had to go. I saw him on Saturday at Cox Hospital in Branson, and he told me he wanted to go home. He was weak and very tired. They took him home on Sunday, and his wife, Scarlett, called this morning to tell me he was gone. So tonight, I will raise a glass to Michael and drink to all those years, all those miles, all those songs, and all those heavenly audiences we played for. He says here, go with God, my friend. I'll see you on the other side. And then there's a picture. And you know what? Let me share this picture. This is a pretty iconic picture of Tom raising a glass to his late friend. Yeah, and you know what? Tom Shipley looks exactly the way he should look, as half of the duo of Brewer and Shipley. Just, again, this is American music. If you had one of those compilations like Have a Nice Day, volume, whatever, they put out, I don't know how many of those, but I had one that had One Toke Over the Line. I think that was the first time I had this song in my possession prior to the internet age, where, of course, you can just go and look it up and play the song. If you don't know the song, you should check it out. It's a really great song. Now, it's interesting. Brewer and Shipley enjoyed their peak level of success in the 60s and 70s. By the way, One Toke Over the Line apparently wasn't a favorite of the Nixon administration. And apparently, Vice President Spiro Agnew had a real problem with this song and said that Brewer and Shipley were targeting America's youth and corrupting them. And I think either Brewer or Shipley later said this was the greatest publicity that we could possibly get. Now, again, I'm a guy who has never been one toke over the line or even one toke near the line, but it was a creative way to communicate something, and apparently it was creative enough to get on AM radio and do really, really well. And every so often you might hear it on a classic rock or an adult contemporary radio station, as you should. Now, Brewer and Shipley performed with many notable acts. This is interesting. Stephen Stills, okay, I can kind of see that. Bruce Springsteen, yeah, kind of. Jerry Garcia, sure. But Black Sabbath, it's Brewer and Shipley opening up for Black Sabbath. Yeah, they were both probably one toke over the line. So that's what they had in common. But definitely a sad day if you're nostalgic and you listen to music in your parents' station wagon, which I did. You had that one speaker in the center, right? On the dashboard, and that high quality mono, whatever you want to call it. And this song coming out, and at the time I had no idea what they were talking about. I thought they had crossed some line, that there was some measurement or something. I had no idea what they were, one toke over the line. So I didn't know until I got older. Toke. Yes. So for those of you who remember toking, which was a thing and now it's less of a thing, but they've got new names for stuff. This was a really big song. It definitely was irritating politically at the time, and it was just a great harmonizing, wonderful pop, folk, whatever you want to call it, song back in those days. You could listen to Brewer and Shipley. You could listen to Led Zeppelin. You could listen to all these different styles. You had the Spinners. You had all these groups coming in from different places and getting on the radio in the 1970s. It was the great melting pot of music. And these days, it all kind of sounds the same because apparently it's supposed to, because you can't like anything that's different or original. I'm sure radio programmers may have struggled a little bit with this song, but I worked at a classic rock station, and we got a lot of calls for like this song and like Jonathan Edwards, Shanty, those sorts of songs. He's talking about putting a good buzz on in the song, and this was really popular for should we call them stoners? I don't know. Call them whatever. But people, even if they didn't do this stuff, they just like the vibe of the song. So, by the way, I'm not promoting drug use here. Again, I never went anywhere near being any tokes over any lines. So I just want to make that clear. Anyway, Brewer, gonna be missed. Michael, is it just Mike Brewer? Yeah, it could be Mike or Michael Brewer. I think Tom nicknamed him just Mike, but he was Michael Brewer, and so he passes away at the age of 80. And Tom Shipley will fondly remember all those great days they had together. And it's sad, but we're losing a lot of great musicians, and certainly Michael Brewer was one of them. So again, thoughts and prayers going out to his family and all the fans that at one point during the 1970s were probably one toke over the line.